geomagnetic jerks are responsible for weakening the Earth's magnetic field. This is what scientists are warning us of. Well, we've had a combination of factors that have given rise to a very big earthquake that we had in Papua New Guinea. Many have predicted that it would hit exactly there in the time frame that it hit in today. One of them was our friend Terrell Blackstar, and months ago he came out with a prediction. He calculated the planetary alignment as well as the black star in our solar system. Others would call it at the edge of our solar system, brown dwarf star, or whatever you want to say it is, planet X or planet 9. Anyway, he calculates how the pressures on the Earth's magma plumes and the corridors of the magma plumes and the earthquakes that take place worldwide give rise to pressures that will hit specific areas. And he told us that in these weeks that we would have this electromagnetic jolt and causing an uptick in earthquakes and volcanic activity. And one of the areas that he predicted, exactly the 10-day time frame, was from May 5th to May 15th of a 7.5 magnitude earthquake at Papua New Guinea. Well, we had a Papua New Guinea earthquake May 6th, actually, of 7.2, which was quite deep. He said it was more shallow, would have been much bigger. But I guess that was just a foreshock of what we had yesterday, a couple of hours ago, that is, of the 5.7 in Papua New Guinea, and it's still rocking with aftershocks. There were, of course, indications of a big earthquake coming because they had quite big foreshocks. You know, around 4 or 5. They even had a 6.1, 6.2, but they had that whole area was rocking. And besides the fact that we had the Papua New Guinea quake a few hours ago, the whole Earth is rocking and ringing like a bell. If you see one of my previous videos on this, all the helipad plots of USGS are ringing. They're all blacked out with all the quakes that are going on worldwide. So it means that this thing has affected all the tectonic plates everywhere, which is, I guess, it's just natural that would happen. Now we're in a solar minimum. Upticks of earthquakes and extreme weather take place in solar minimums, and they say it's a grand solar minimum, which means that we're going to have extremely colder weather and more earthquake activity and volcanic eruptions. We've already seen the tremendously harsh weather, for example, in the United States. Rains continuously, flooding continuously, record-setting floods. Unfortunately, the farmers may not even be able to plant this year. They have never known of such devastation from rain and flooding since records were kept about 165 years ago. They started keeping records, and this is the worst. They do not ever know. They don't have any knowledge of such catastrophe taking place. Farmers will not be able to farm this year. That's devastating. You know what that means? It's a famine. It's a type of a famine. If a country's farmers don't farm, how will the people live? What are they going to eat? What are they going to live on? This, you can understand, causes heartache, hardship. The farmers would have to relocate. It reminds us of what happened with the tribes of Israel, with the sons of Jacob, when they had to go to Egypt to get grain. They all went together to get grain, and thank goodness it was the providence of God that Joseph was already there to help them. And they eventually stayed there. So, until the Exodus, of course. But this happens. You know, people have to move away when they don't have food. They have to go somewhere else to live. We also, because of the solar minimum have more cosmic rays coming in because our atmosphere is thinner. And that means that the cosmic rays also by themselves are a reason for the uptick in earthquakes and volcanic activity. I'm explaining this because I had a comment from someone, and we were discussing why such a big earthquake all of a sudden. Well, it's also having to do with the space weather. I'll leave a link below for you for that, but we had yesterday, they told us that we have an increase of geomagnetic storms, and we had, again, I'm reading from Space Weather. Today, NOAA forecasters have boosted the odds of geomagnetic storms this week to 75% because we're having a series of coronal mass ejections, CMEs, approaching Earth. The action begins today, May 15th. You know, they're approaching, so today they will be hitting us. May 15th, when the first CME is expected to arrive and could continue through May 17, as additional CMEs follow, storm levels will almost certainly reach category G1 minor, with isolated periods of G2 moderate storming as well. Auroras could cross the US-Canadian border in the nights ahead. So that's pretty south. That is pretty south. If you could see a northern light all the way in Chicago, I mean, that's pretty south. Surprise storm sparks auroras in the US. A surprise geomagnetic storm erupted during the early hours of May 14th when a crack opened in Earth's magnetic field. Solar wind poured through the gap and ignited auroras over northern tier United States. Paul Nelson photographed the display from a shore of Lake Superior near Marquette, Michigan. You can see the wonderful pictures in here. The auroras were bright enough to see reflected in the still waters of the lake. Amazing. Lake Superior. Nelson said the ISS made a visible pass during the best part of the show, right across and above the northern lights. Auroras were also sighted in Ohio and the Dakotas and even Wyoming. So that's pretty south. At its peak, the storm reached category G3, one of the strongest in years. NOAA analysts think the instigated crack may have been opened by an early arrival CME. And if you miss a show, good news, more CMEs are coming. So you may be able to see more auroras. Solar wind flowing from the northern coronal hole of the sun could graze Earth on May 17th to 18th. So we have more coming in after the 17th as well. And the solar wind is going at a speed of 443.4 kilometers per single second. X-ray solar flares, 6 hours max B1 from sunspot 0119 UT on May 15th. 24 hours B1 0119 UT May 15. So the geomagnetic jerks responsible. The scientific community received scares amid the reports that Earth's magnetic field is weakening, and it's dangerously weakening. This is after the news earlier in the year that the geomagnetic North Pole was, of course, as we know, has been for years, leaving the Canadian Arctic, heading towards the Russian Siberia, and at accelerated rate of about 34 miles per year. I mean, this is astonishing. This is according to Sputnik News. They say a new study claims to have solved a mystery that has left scientists scratching their heads since 1978. And even at the beginning of this year, they had to readjust the GPS maps because of that. Because that's important for flights and also for journeys with ships, ship navigation, because they use GPS as well. Now, a new study claims to have solved the mystery, left scientists scratching their heads. Researchers from the Paris-based Institut de Physique du Globe and the Technical University of Denmark have carried out what may turn out to be groundbreaking new research into the movement of superhot liquid metal in the Earth's core. Well, this is what Terrell Blackstar tells us of concerning the corridors of the magmas in the Earth. This is what's causing the, if you have an earthquake somewhere, it's going to hit a corridor, and then you get the pressure to be released, hitting an earthquake to be released somewhere else. Now, the Technical University of Denmark carried out what may turn out to be the groundbreaking new research into the movement of superhot liquid metal in the Earth's core, which they say is responsible for the powerful jerks, rocking the planet and temporarily weakening the magnetic field every few years. Just before we go on with the article, I just want to say that, you know, there have been many times in the past where we have had pole shifts. It's not just the magnetic pole that is moving. We've also had geological poles that have moved. The ancients, for example, the ancient Egyptians, who wrote a letter to Solon, who gave it to Plato. We have Plato's writings, where this Egyptian high priest was telling him that there are many times in the past where we've had the sun rising in the west, setting in the east, and the stars in the sky had totally changed position. That has happened quite a few times in the past. This has been confirmed by geologists from their examination of rock crystals and the magnetism in the rock crystals. Now, scientists use supercomputers to create a highly detailed model of the movement of the core metal in the Earth, the magma that is, successfully aligning their simulations with actual jerks observed by scientists. They found the jerks may be caused by floating blobs of the molten matter floating towards the crust, and as they do so, these blobs create powerful waves along magnetic field lines, affecting the flow of the liquid governing the magnetosphere and transforming into the jerks in the magnetic field above our Earth. Julian Obert and Christopher Finley, scientists who conducted the research, summarized implications on their work in the paper Nature, noting that the ability to numerically reproduce jerks offers a new way to probe the physical properties of the Earth's deeper interior. The authors hope that their work could help scientists better predict the behavior of Earth's geomagnetic field and also predict future jerks and their efforts on other geodynamic processes. And scientists first described the phenomena of geomagnetic jerks in 1978, with one of the first such jerks documented in 1969. It temporarily warped the magnetic field over Western Europe. Up to now, though, researchers have not been able to reach a consensus on why the jerks were taking place, even though it was speculated that they originated inside the planet's core. Well, Earth's magnetic field is thought to be generated through the concept known as the geodynamo. It's a mechanism allowing the planet to generate magnetic field through heat generated by the motion of conductive liquid metal inside the core, complemented by the planet's spin as it travels around the sun. And we know that that's why for example, the change in this liquid metal inside our core, the blob was moving from northern Canada towards Siberia, is what is causing the North Magnetic Pole to move from Canada towards Siberia. The scientific community received a bit of a scare recently amid reports that Earth's magnetic field was weakening, perhaps dangerously so. It was after news earlier this year that the magnetic North Pole was leaving Canada Arctic, heading towards Russia Siberia at an accelerated pace, and without the field, Earth would be left vulnerable to solar flares, which, when sufficiently intense, could cause extensive damage to human-made infrastructure, including everything from spacecraft and satellite orbiting Earth to power grids on the planet itself. In 2011, the U.S. National Academy of Sciences calculated that a repeat of a solar storm like the one which hit Earth in 1859 could cause as much as $2 trillion in initial damage and take a decade to repair. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.